Welcome to the debate. Our focus today is on the strategic arteries of global commerce. Africa's emerging smart ports. These critical gateways are attempting to leverage some very advanced technologies, AI, IoT, blockchain, to fundamentally reshape logistics and really facilitate continental trade.
And the stakes here are immense. I mean, ports are the absolute lifeline of international trade, especially if you're thinking about realizing the promise of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AfCFTA. But we have to confront the data as it stands. The average cargo dwell time in African ports remains stubbornly high. We're talking around 20 days compared to a global best practice of just 3 to 4.
Exactly. So the central question we really have to address is whether these smart port initiatives are genuinely transformative and scalable, positioning Africa for a decisive competitive, a latecomer advantage. Or, on the other hand, if they are just isolated, high-cost islands of technology, constrained by chronic systemic infrastructure, and, frankly, deep security deficits.
And that's the core of it. I'm going to argue that the rapid technology-driven transformation, especially the adoption of centralized digital platforms and advanced AI in these key hubs, is delivering some irreversible efficiency gains. I think it's effectively positioning Africa as a dynamic, new trade frontier.
And I come at it from a different perspective. I believe the widespread enthusiasm for this is, premature hype. I think it dangerously overlooks persistent, fundamental structural limitations, massive costs, and a critical reliance on foreign expertise and capital that, at the end of the day, compromises the long-term independent sustainability of these projects.
Okay, so the evidence for a genuine positive transformation, I think, is rooted in the strategic application of this advanced tech to address inherited structural problems. This is the very definition of a latecomer advantage, right? The ability to bypass 50 years of legacy, fragmented systems and leap straight to modern, centralized AI solutions. And you can see it in the operational success stories. South Africa, for instance, is deploying AI-powered scheduling systems specifically to optimize vessel traffic. This is critical because AI doesn't just manage ship movements. It uses machine learning to predict arrival times, to predict yard utilization, and that leads to a crucial reduction in vessel turnaround times and, of course, congestion costs.
That's an interesting point, though, although I would frame it a little differently. While, localized scheduling optimization is good, the real transformation is what we're seeing in the regional leaders. I mean, look at Morocco's Tangermed. It's widely regarded as Africa's smartest port. It leverages Wurzel's system for just-in-time solutions, machine learning, and AI.
Right.
And JIT is essential here. It minimizes inventory holding costs by ensuring vessels arrive precisely when a berth is available. That saves millions in unnecessary ship delay penalties. And it's not just there. Marsa Maroc, operating in Casablanca, deployed the Hayport platform, and the result is concrete. They're saving 180 minutes in planning and coordination per port call. That's tangible.
And most crucially, I'd argue that AI is the necessary backbone for the AfCFTA. It provides the predictive intelligence needed to streamline customs clearance and coordinate multimodal transport across all 54 participating countries. We're talking about using AI to predict border throughput rates, which then allows regional trade finance institutions to release funds earlier. This dramatically de-risks intra-African trade and streamlines the flow of capital and goods. I mean, that capability is fundamentally transformative.
See, and I'm sorry, but I can't quite buy that. The success stories, as impressive as they might be, I just don't think they outweigh the huge aggregate structural challenges that the continent is facing. This enthusiasm for smart ports tends to mask the reality that the continent-wide average cargo dwell time is still about 20 days. These figures are not moving fast enough.
But they are moving.
Let's look at your examples of efficiency. Kenya's Mombasa. It's a vital gateway for all of East Africa. Now, despite its strategic importance and modernization efforts, its average container dwell time is 5.6 days. And while you might say that's an improvement on the average, the global best practice is 3 to 4 days. This 50% deficit, it highlights a persistent underlying inefficiency that the tech isn't fully solving.
But a 50% deficit from the global best is still a huge leap from the continental average.
It is, but the core foundation remains weak. Because successful AI and IoT adoption requires absolute stability. We face severe limitations: limited physical port infrastructure, unstable internet, and crucially, unreliable power supply. When you deploy thousands of IoT sensors and complex AI hardware, unstable power doesn't just cause downtime, it corrupts data, it damages equipment, and it undermines the very reliability that these just-in-time systems demand. And we see the failure clearly in crisis examples. Lagos port experienced congestion so severe that ships were waiting up to 80 days to enter. 80! Now, Nigeria implemented the Etho e-call-up system, but that system only manages truck access to the port gate. It solves the symptom of queuing trucks. It does absolutely nothing to fix the deeper physical bottlenecks within the port itself, like inadequate stacking space or the manual documentation required once the container is offloaded. Digitalization only fixes surface issues unless the physical infrastructure is robust.
Okay, so that brings us directly to the question of systemic reliability. Are these specific high-profile projects, Tanger Med, Durban, the Nigerian roadmap, are they proving the viability of a continental shift, or are they just isolated exceptions that don't reflect the majority experience?
I think they prove that a strategic, centralized government intervention works and is scalable region by region. The centralized approach adopted by several African countries offers a significant governance advantage over the fragmented, decentralized IT systems you see across various competing private operators in, say, the US or some European states. This strategic choice is perfectly suited for rapid, harmonized modernization.
How so?
Are governance mechanisms that harmonize customs, inspection, and trade procedures. This led to measurable economic benefits, including customs revenue increases exceeding 30%. This streamlined, coordinated governance accelerates adoption and transparency across the state, giving the entire region a competitive edge in compliance and efficiency. You simply cannot achieve that kind of rapid harmonization with legacy, siloed infrastructure.
But that success, that very centralization, is precisely what makes the dependency issue so acute. It completely undermines this African advantage narrative. These advancements are overwhelmingly dependent on foreign expertise and capital. I mean, we see DP World's extensive presence across 10 countries, controlling key logistics hubs. We see China's dominance in financing and construction. Singapore, a global benchmark, is actively assisting Angola's Libido Swift project.
But you need partners for.
When you rely so heavily on external entities for the financing, for the high-tech construction, and for the long-term operational maintenance of critical digital infrastructure, the bottleneck just shifts from physical congestion to foreign control. This introduces immense vulnerability, and it fundamentally questions the long-term sustainability and scalability of local capacity building. The infrastructure revolution becomes less African and more externally driven, which means the accrued profits and, crucially, the intelligence often flow out, serving potentially non-African interests.
I agree that foreign partnership is necessary for projects of this scale, but the flow of investment confirms confidence, not necessarily control. Investment is flowing because the ROI is clear and it's expected. The African Development Bank is supporting these AI innovation corridors. More significantly, the Africa Investment Consortium has secured a groundbreaking deal involving AI and smart logistics across key nations like Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Ghana.
Okay.
These projects aren't speculative. They are based on data forecasting trade volumes to double by 2030, largely because of the AFCFTA harmonization. That exponential growth justifies the massive capital expenditure. To reject foreign investment based on geopolitical anxiety is to reject the necessary capital infusion required to bridge the continent's massive infrastructure deficit.
I have to push back on dismissing geopolitical anxiety as just conjecture. The scale of investment you cite, while large, is absolutely dwarfed by the total infrastructure deficit. And furthermore, foreign competition introduces specific, sophisticated geopolitical risk. The dominance of Chinese companies in construction, financing, and crucially, proprietary hardware is a central concern.
In what way?
ZPMC, for example. It holds 70% of the global crane market share. That includes in U.S. ports and almost certainly in Africa. These cranes are state-of-the-art, but they come equipped with thousands of proprietary sensors that track granular container data, performance, movement. When this data is integrated with state-backed logistics platforms like Logic, it creates a specific, non-generic security concern about data capture and control over vital trade intelligence. This isn't a generalized global trade risk. This is introducing a potential monoculture of proprietary, externally controlled infrastructure into critical national assets.
I see why you raised the sensor data risk, but that is a challenge of data governance, not a reason to halt technological progress. The efficiency gains delivered by digitization inherently offset many traditional risks, particularly corruption. The integration of advanced technologies, like blockchain, for instance, inherently boosts security. It enables secure data sharing, creates immutable audit trails, and dramatically reduces the fraud risks that are rampant in manual, paper-based systems.
In theory, yes.
Not just in theory. Blockchain has proven its worth in piloting stages. The Antwerp pilot project showed a verifiable reduction in administrative cost by up to 50%. And that's because the secure, immutable history of ownership and container movement eliminated the need for customs agents to manually process, stamp, or cross-verify 5 different paper documents.
And you mentioned fraud. I would point to Morocco, which is voluntarily integrating blockchain into its customs clearance process. It is doing this specifically to reinforce the fight against fraud and improve transparency in commercial transactions. This addresses a core weakness of existing systems, corruption and lack of transparency, head-on with technology.
That's a compelling argument regarding corruption, but have you considered the flip side? Digitalization introduces a massive new attack surface, and I maintain that African ports are currently unprepared for this level of technological fragility.
Okay.
My core concern with your Moroccan example is the word voluntarily. How does a voluntary system combat systematic corruption across a fragmented customs environment? If the choice to use the secure ledger is optional, it often means the transactions that need scrutiny will simply bypass the high-tech secure route. That renders the system largely cosmetic for anti-fraud purposes.
I think it builds trust over time.
Moreover, the risk profile is simply too high. Cyber attacks on the maritime industry increased 400% between February and May of 2020. This is not hypothetical. The 2017 Maersk NotPetya virus attack proved that one zero-day exploit can paralyze the movement of billions of dollars of goods, holding entire national economies hostage. Are we equipping ports like Durban, which handles half of South Africa's container traffic, or Lagos, which handles the overwhelming majority of Nigerian trade, to manage that level of digital warfare? I don't think so. Without mandatory, robust, and consistently funded cybersecurity training and resilience measures, the efficiency gains we're celebrating are being bought at the price of enormous, potentially catastrophic technological vulnerability.
I'm just not convinced that the risk outweighs the benefit, provided sound governance is in place. The transition from paper-based risk, the guy with the clipboard managing manual corruption, to algorithmic risk, a manageable cyber threat, that is a fundamental upgrade. We can invest in firewalls and training. We cannot undo years of entrenched, paper-based systemic inefficiency without digitalization.
So what we've established is that the integration of AI, IoT, and blockchain is actively transforming Africa's logistics sector. It's leading to competitive advantages through increased efficiency and transparency. The strategic adoption of centralized digital platforms, coupled with the proven success of regional leaders like Tanger Med, provides a strong, sustainable foundation for a digital future.
Now, while we must address the governance of external dependencies and close cybersecurity gaps, the momentum is undeniable and it's commercially justified by the trade forecasts.
I would maintain that the narrative of the smart port must be approached with profound caution. Until the systemic, continent-wide issues, that stubborn 20-day cargo dwell time average, the critical funding gaps independent of foreign geopolitical agendas, and robust cybersecurity readiness, until those are universally and reliably addressed, The advancements we celebrate remain high-tech islands in a sea of persistent inefficiency and external risk.
The journey is clearly underway, though, and the commercial logic for this transformation is sound.
But the question remains, are these African ports developing indigenous intelligence, or are they simply installing intelligent systems that are controlled and maintained elsewhere? That distinction, I believe, is the key to their long-term destiny and the true realization of the latecomer advantage. And there is much more to explore within this material regarding the governance frameworks necessary to secure that future.